Following video is brought to you by the Boston Sports Entertainment Network. Please consider liking and subscribing for more Boston sports content.
I got the Boston Celtics going to the final.
I got them winning without.
It's time to represent your city. Put your hands up. Cali, you know we do it for Boston. Hey, ain't nobody ballin' like Boston. Yeah, hey, can't nobody do it like Boston. Where the legends get made, where the banners get raised, bright lights, big stage. Boston. All the fire we bring in a city full of rings, it's a beautiful thing out in Boston. And you ain't hard like that, you don't put it on the line with your squad like that. That's right, Boston. All we do is win like cigars in the gym, and we at it again. I say, Beantown, what's up? What's up? 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 Feel the energy shift, now we jumping at the gym. Represent, showing out how we ball above the rim. Larry Legend, 86, to the truth in 08. Cement your name with the all-time greats. Tomato 18 in the Raptors. Celtic green, only green that matters. It's about that time. Ain't another city that's louder than mine. Always gonna shine with the game on the line. What you think was gonna happen, man? That's how we do it in Boston. Ain't nobody gonna like Boston. Yeah. Can't nobody do it like Boston.
All right. Welcome into this episode of the Dynasty Proud podcast presented by BSEN. I'm Ryan, and I am at 19_loading on Twitter. Alex is here. He is at AlexZachary305. And we are here to talk a little bit about a few things, including the Karl Anthony Towns, Julius Randle trade with the Knicks and Timberwolves, the preseason, which is going to start very soon, and some other things as well. Alex, how are you?
Doing great. Just a few more weeks till Celtics basketball, ring night. Been looking forward to this for a long time, so we're almost at the finish line there.
Yeah, a few weeks until the regular season, but obviously we'll get into the preseason starting on Friday too in a couple seconds. But the first thing, I mean, the number one topic I feel like we have to talk about for today, it's got to be the Knicks and Timberwolves trade that just went down and just now kind of recently became official. It took some maneuvering to actually get it done, so I wanted to go through the full deal. The Knicks are receiving Karl Anthony Towns and James Nagy. The Timberwolves are receiving Julius Randle, Dante DiVincenzo, Keita Bates-Diop, and a first-round pick. And the Hornets, who were the third team that got involved to get it all done, they acquired Daquan Jeffries, Charlie Brown, Dwayne Washington Jr., and 3 second-round picks. Alex, just first of all, your thoughts in general, your gut reaction to the trade. What was the first thing that came to your mind?
Rest in peace to the Nova Knicks, June 2024 to September 2024. So I actually was with a Knicks fan when this trade went down. And the first thing I saw was like, obviously the very first thing you do is just click on the Shams page just to make sure this is the real Shams. Because obviously a lot of impersonators and fake pages out there. And when I saw that in my mind, I'm like, okay, what's the return? I'm like, it 100% has to be Julius Randle. Nothing else makes sense. And I'm just like, real quick, I'm like, if it's just Randle and picks, they won. Because Cat is better than Randle. Like, Randle may have more to do with the culture, but I feel like Randle wore a little thin at the end of his time there. You know, he's complaining about the jerseys. He had been out during that run that they had last year. I really don't know where he fit with this team anyways. So I'm like, if you're just replacing Randle with Cat, that's a massive improvement. But then the Dante DiVincenzo part came to it, and I'm like, I don't know if it's as big of a home run. Now, yes, the best player in the deal is Cat, and the Knicks got Cat. So if you look at it like Colin Cowherd, like the Knicks got the best player in the deal, the Knicks won the deal. The draft pick that they got, that they sent out, the Detroit pick, at first you're like, wow, Detroit like draft pick, like that's like a literally lottery ticket, but it's like heavily protected. It may never convey, so that's not really that big of a deal. Then you hear down the road that like DiVincenzo might not be as happy with his role in New York, even despite the Nova Knicks connection, because Bridges may have been almost replacing him so he'd be coming off the bench. But is he coming off the bench in Minnesota? So I mean, that's a whole different conversation. But to answer your question, I feel like the Knicks' ceiling got higher, but I think their floor got a little bit lower because DiVincenzo was a big part of what they do. He fit the culture. He was just a great shooter. Everything they did. And he was someone that was just kind of consistently healthy, at least in the playoffs. So Cat is a bit more of a question mark. He has highs and lows. but I mean, he's a much more of a star. So I think the Knicks really have gone for getting Bridges, getting Cat, getting Anunoby last year. Like, they look on paper, at least, like the biggest threat to us. What are your thoughts, Ryan?
Yeah, so I'm not as big on DiVincenzo, I think, as you seem to be. He's a nice player. He's a good pickup for Minnesota. I don't think he's terrible, but I think that he benefited from the way the initial iteration of the Nova Knicks, which was really just him and Brunson, were playing, and he was able to kind of ride the role that he had to the success that he was able to get. Again, I don't think he's terrible, but I don't know if he pushes Minnesota over the top like they probably want him to. And Randall, he's 29 years old. It feels like he's so much older than that to me. Like he's, again, also still a nice player. He was an all-star last year. He averaged 24 points a game. He's not very efficient, though. His effective field goal percentage it's less than 52% last year, which you'd like to see that over 55 if you can get it there. He shot 31% from three last year, which isn't like the worst in the league, but Towns shoots basically a full 10% better from three based on last year compared to Randall. So I feel like, as you said, Randall's definitely a downgrade over Cat for Minnesota. It seemed to me like the Knicks were just kind of doing what they had to do to fill the void that was left with their bigs, with Hartenstein going out too. Towns is obviously an upgrade over him, but in order to do it, they did have to move Randall, so they lose him. And then behind Towns, all they really have is like Mitchell Robinson and what else? I don't know what else they have in terms of the bigs there, which is a little bit.
They're already sound like they might be shopping Robinson as well. So the big situation, losing Hartenstein is a big deal, and that like is not being harped on enough. Like, he was a big part of what they did. Now, Randall is a lot tougher, so to speak, than Cat. So that's one thing that, they may be upgrading with Minnesota, is like, it was a contract situation with the amount of money they were going to be paying Gobert and him, not to mention the extension with Anthony Edwards. But then also they kind of like look a little soft up front with Cat, with Gobert, like they kind of look soft. Randall's not looked like that as much. So that could be another dynamic and element to this as well. But the Knicks, their big thing right here, besides health and Tibbs running his players into the ground, is going to be what they do with the front court. Like, if there's a move to be made, if they can, I don't know if Robert Williams helps that, because he's another player that with durability issues, but they're going to need somebody else like in the front court, because Mitchell Robinson's not going to be back for a while. When he does, he's not, the healthiest player as is. So they're going to be a little thin up front. Karl-Anthony Towns is more of a finesse player.
I think Rob Williams would be a fantastic pickup for them if they could get him. Like, I think, I don't know. I'd like to see him get another chance too, because I feel like he's kind of wasting away in Portland. That wouldn't be where I want to see him, because I would like to, and having him back on the East Coast and having him play us a little bit more in the conference, that would be fun too, to see him back with the guys, kind of reuniting as an opponent. That would be cool to see.
2 years from now when he signs back as a vet min.
Right. Yeah. That's inevitable. As you said, though, I feel like for Minnesota, it was mostly a financial move at the end of the day. They know that Towns is basically going to be making $50 to $60 million a year from now until 2028. So the Knicks get a good window with him. He's under contract. Edwards is signed to a rookie extension from last year. He'll be a $40 to $50 million a year guy. Minnesota's not the biggest market, so who knows if they're willing to risk going into the tax too far or any of that. I kind of doubt it. But then with the Knicks too, on the other side of it, Towns, to me, has always struck me as someone who's not always been completely driven to win. And I just wonder how well he's going to fit. Maybe he feeds off the energy from Brunson and Bridges and those guys. Maybe. But I feel like Randall was kind of a big part of that too. And he's obviously gone. And I feel like Cat was feeding off the energy from Anthony Edwards. And I don't know if that's going to be the same in New York. Do you feel that way?
He doesn't really strike you as like a Tibbs or even like Knicks type of player. From a talent perspective, sure, it's a significant upgrade. I feel like, at least offensively. Defensively, it's a downgrade. But I think he's all the thing on him has always been kind of that he's soft. And coming to the Knicks, like in Tibbs and that culture that they have over here, like that's going to be something that is, not going to sit in right. And then you look at the basketball fit of it, like offensively, now you can space the floor even more. You can go 5 out more. And they're kind of almost building kind of like a Celtics light over there. I mean, granted,
Yeah.
Brunson doesn't play like either of the guards, but if you look at the wings, they went and got Bridges, they went and got Anunoby to kind of be like, the 3-and-D wings. They got a stretch 5 and Cat. The difference is their stretch 5 can't guard anybody, whereas our 2 stretch 5s with Porzingis and Al can. So then you have, someone like Brunson at the top who, he tries to defend. He just has significant, height and physical like limitations. Then you have Cat, who just, if you watch the game last year, Celtics versus T-Wolves, and they kept switching the matchup of Cat onto Tatum, he was just getting abused. So while they do have the 2 wing defenders, the Celtics switch everything, and they managed to do that. And so when they get Cat or Brunson out, guarding somebody on the wing, it's going to be a really poor matchup. So like I said, the upside is there with getting Cat and the talent, but I don't think this is just a slam dunk that some people may think it is for the Knicks.
Yeah, so you actually kind of said something when you said that it's, they're sort of putting together kind of a Celtics light roster. That's my thought too. I feel like Cat is sort of their counter to Porzingis, where it's a guy who. So now I know Porzingis is out for a while, but when he comes back, assume he's the same guy that he was before. Now he has to come all the way out to the 3-point line and guard Cat probably in all likelihood because he shoots so much better than a guy like Randall did. But like you said, there are ways to scheme around that and get switches so that they don't have to worry about it as much and sink Porzingis back into the paint where he can get blocks and be that disruptive force that we know he is. And, not necessarily worry about, because Cat's not going to blow by anybody, and get to the rim. They don't necessarily have to worry about that. So they almost can just put a wing on him on the outside as long as they can get a switch out there that works just to contest the shot, but not necessarily have to worry as much about, actually being right in his face. I mean, he'll knock down shots, but you'd want Porzingis back down in the paint if you can get him there. Yeah.
So I actually ran a poll the other day. I was like, who would you rather have, Cat or Porzingis? And I get it. Like, I'm a Celtics fan. I have more Celtics followers. And it was about 90% Cat. But some of the comments on it were like, well, you're saying assuming health when you're talking about somebody like Porzingis that's just always injured. And then I posted a statistic that in the last 5 years, Porzingis has actually played more games than Cat. So Porzingis has this narrative of like, he can't stay on the floor. He's injury prone. He's soft. But Cat is not, the Iron Man on the other side. Like, he's actually missed more games. And then offensively, like, yeah, Cat may be more consistent, but I feel like the ceiling is significantly higher than Porzingis. Like, if both of them are going, Porzingis is a much more unstoppable player just due to his physical abilities. Like, you throw him at the top of the key, there's nobody that can defend him. He can space the floor from 30. And then on the defensive end, yeah, neither of them are great guarding the perimeter, but down low, he's one of the best rim protectors and shot blockers in the game, whereas Cat is not that. So I think the upside is much higher for Porzingis. And then you look at the team, like, Cat also was, look at these numbers as the number 2 option in Minnesota, where at best Porzingis was the 3 when he was healthy. So I think what Porzingis does for the Celtics unlocks everybody. Whereas, like, I don't know if Cat would be quite as successful on the Celtics if you put him in Porzingis's role, assuming health for both players.
Yeah, and I was just pulling this up while you were talking too with Towns. He's only played 91 games the last 2 seasons. I know he played 62 last year, but only 29 the year before that. And this is something I pointed out on Twitter last week when the trade when the rumor was that this trade was happening. His minutes have been steadily declining. Like every single year, his minutes have gone down the last 5 seasons. It's not a big jump, but he's now coming into play for Tibbs, who he played for before in Minnesota.
I'm playing 45 minutes a game.
And is he going to hold up? I'm not sure that he is. I mean, we worry about the Porzingis injury risk, but Cat played less than 33 minutes a game last year, which again is not like, it's not like he's not playing. It's not like he's on a restriction or anything, but is he gonna be able to hold up playing as much as Tibbs is gonna want him to, especially with the lack of depth that they have? Now, if they go out and pick somebody else up, obviously that changes everything. Or if Robinson can stay healthy and kind of spell him, that changes the game. But I don't necessarily think that's going to happen because Robinson hasn't proved that he can stay out there. And like I said, I don't know if Cat's going to be able to stay on the floor through all that. Even if it's just a nagging injury, maybe he'll only be 80% of the guy. Maybe he'll still be out there, but maybe he'll only be 80% of the guy that he normally is. So I think that is advantage Celtics as well in that case.
I think a big part of it is like, remember coming into last season, everyone was kind of knocking the Celtics' depth. Now, when you look at it, they're looking at that as kind of the deepest team in the league, not just in like high end depth, but just even all the way down, like Pritchard, Hauser, Cornette. Like these are like very not just playable, but like very valuable role players. Like you're looking at, okay, Porzingis is going to be out for the first month and a half, 2 months, possibly longer, and then when he comes back, they're not going to go right into playing him every night, 40 minutes a night. So it's going to be, and then you have Horford, who doesn't play back-to-backs already, who is a year older now, who you just want to be available for the postseason. So you're going to be asking a lot of Cornette, a lot of Tillman, Neemias Queta. So I feel like they have that, and they have the supporting pieces with the way they play to just kind of mitigate any sort of like, because they're going to give guys extended rest. Whereas I think the Knicks, especially with the coaching style they have, they're going to play a lot more minutes. They don't have the depth the Celtics have now. I'm going to have to look at where they are as far as the aprons on the tax scale. Because if they're not, I got to see what apron it is where they can't sign somebody above the mid-level exception if they get bought out. Because they're a team that could certainly use buyouts throughout the course of the year if they're eligible to get them. Because depth is something they're seriously lacking. And I don't think, expecting young players or, like G League players to make the jump is going to be what's going to work for them or for Tibbs. So unless you're going to play a 7-8 man rotation all season, which is what led to their problems, everybody, running on fumes by the end anyways. That's the big problem you look at that with them. And then you also look at, like I said, defensively with Cat and with Brunson, they have more limitations and liabilities now. But I think offensively, like it kind of puts them, I don't want to say on par with the Celtics, but I think as far as the starting five, they look like they could be the closest out of any other team in the East. Because like I said, I don't trust Philly. Milwaukee has, the two players, but there's a lot of question marks there. I still like where the Celtics are. I like where they are better than anybody. And this doesn't really change that. It's going to take time for chemistry. We'll see how they look on opening night, expecting a Celtics win on banner night. But, it'll be interesting to see how that plays out over the course of the season with the Knicks.
Yeah. And I was just also looking this up too, because the word on the street is that Baylor Shireman wants to play the 4 for the Celtics because he thinks there's a way that he can get in and get minutes doing that. He says he's put on like 20 pounds just like since the draft. And I'm like, I don't know how you did that, but okay. But he's 6'6". He's a really good rebounder, at least at the college level he was. That's in the Big East. So, I don't know. It's definitely a physical brand of basketball that they play in that conference. So I think will be a guy that is going to be willing to kind of throw his body around and maybe get in Cat's face a little bit. That could be interesting to watch too. And I know I'm probably hyping up a guy that's going to spend half his time in Maine, but whatever. There was one other thing I wanted to hit on too that I'm now forgetting. But anyway, so with the season approaching, preseason begins this Friday against the Nuggets. We are, as we said before, less than 3 weeks from the regular season. So we're getting really, really close, which is awesome. First of all, how do you feel about the Celtics and the NBA guys in general having to go all the way to the capital of the UAE in Abu Dhabi just for these preseason games?
On a non-sports related thing, especially with what's going on in the Middle East, granted, the UAE and Dubai is not like the rest of the Middle East. It's pretty much like Las Vegas of the Arab world over there. But you do worry about safety and concerns, with all of these bombs going off back and forth. One of them drops. I mean, that doesn't feel like a place that's unsafe, but just them being in that side of the world with all the tension you have over there is a little unsettling. But I mean, at least it's 3 weeks until the season starts, because it's, a lot of jet lag, like, when the NFL players, when they go to London or Germany for those games, like, I wouldn't like this if the season started in a week or 10 days. Like, I think it was a massive disadvantage. But, by the time you get back, like I said, Porzingis went over there. He's not even playing. But, I mean, I guess I get it for the global game. Adam Silver's really trying to, bring the brand around the world even more. I mean, so that part of it's kind of cool. But, I mean, I'm kind of indifferent towards it. Like, as long as they're safe and nothing happens to them, on or off the court, then I guess it's good. Like, Denver is who we thought we were going to get in the finals the last 2 years. And then for, one reason or another, it didn't happen either time. But maybe, cool to watch the Celtics again. We'll see how much of it I'm able to watch. We'll see how much they, play the star players, especially, first game after everything and then having another break and going into preseason. So, I mean, it's exciting to watch, Celtics basketball, but, not going to get too emotionally invested in a preseason game, almost a month before the season starts.
No, and as you said, I don't think we're going to see too much action probably for Tatum and Brown and other stars. But I kind of want to see some of the summer league guys. I want to see Shireman, like I said. I want to see Lonnie Walker too. Those are guys that I'm just personally rooting for. That I'm going to be all over my agenda for this year, just because I'm a big fan of both those guys. Keita is a guy to watch too, with Porzingis being out for a while. I want to see if he can run the way they want him to in terms of, just keeping up with the NBA game, for extended minutes. Because if he goes in there, full energy and is only asked to play 5-10 minutes a night, that's great. But if he's asked to play an entire night, does he have to kind of pace himself a little bit? That's definitely possible. On just kind of the globalization thing, that's neat. That's cool. I just think it seems a little crazy to ask these guys to fly all the way there for this. I'm not rooting against it. It's just a weird thing to me. Like, I don't really know why I care, because it's just a preseason. And like you said, the season's 3 weeks away. But these guys, especially the Celtics specifically, they had multiple guys on the Olympic roster. They've been traveling all around. They've gotten minimal rest compared to the rest of the league because they went the farthest you possibly could by winning the championship. So they had the shortest possible offseason. You factor in the Olympics thing. We really only got like 3 months without Celtics basketball, which is fantastic for us as fans. But I know it takes a toll on the players and coaches and everybody involved in terms of, how much they're being asked to do, and then also being asked to fly, a quarter of the way or halfway around the world just to play a couple preseason games. It seems kind of crazy to me.
I think that's why anybody thinking Lonnie Walker won't have a role on this team, I think it's crazy. Like, they're talking about him being with Maine, but I think, you look at someone like that is like a proven NBA player, which I think it's crazy that he's only on an Exhibit 10 and he lasted as long as he did. Like, you have guys like Drew and Derek White that played deep into June, then played in the Olympics, and those two actually played at the Olympics. So you have guys like that. Like, you can give either one of them a night off. Lonnie Walker can step right in, just give you buckets. You're going to obviously expect a lot out of Keita, Cornette, Tillman this year. Like, they're going to get a lot of minutes because, like I said, Horford doesn't play back-to-backs. Porzingis is going to be out for a while, and then they're going to, be very careful with him over the course of the season. So the thing that's why Shireman, if he could actually play some sort of a role with this team, like, to give less minutes to Tatum or Brown, like, we'll see if Tatum and Brown are really on that kind of revenge tour, even though they're champions now, with what happened with Jalen getting, snubbed from All NBA and All Defense, getting left off the team, Tatum, kind of being disrespected when he was on the team. So those guys want to make that a point, but I think the eyes are on the prize of, like, Joe's going to keep them locked in. Like, they want to go back to back. And so they're going to be very careful about the way that they do it. I trust the team. I trust the Celtics, like the ownership on down, to make sure that, like, they're not going to be playing like Tibbs. They're not going to be playing 40 minutes a night. So we have a deep team. We have a deep team. I don't like that they're going halfway around the world, but there is some time in between. I don't think they're going to play their guys a ton in the preseason. Like, it's, a global game for the stars. So they'll come out a little bit at the beginning. But then you're going to get a heavy mix of, like, the Cornettes, the Pritchards, the Hausers, the Shiremen, like, the white Celtics will be out there a lot. And then same thing with the preseason. So it's just get everybody to opening night outside of Porzingis, with just health and not being worn out. I think adrenaline will kick in that night, but then it's like you go to Washington after that. Like, this, just the grind of the season comes up on you quick. So everything just moves really fast. So just kind of, don't wear anybody out.
Yeah, and I think the Celtics are kind of in position to do the opposite of the Tibbs Knicks thing, where they have all these guys who are sort of like quasi NBA players in Maine that they're like those quadruple A type of players in baseball.
So basically the Wizards roster.
Yeah, exactly. Where they're maybe not good enough to be a starter or like a bench role player on an NBA team, but they're too good for Maine. They've got all these guys
like Bobby Dow back with the Red Sox.
Kind of, yeah. But yeah, I think they have an opportunity to kind of throw some stuff at the wall and see what sticks. And whichever of those number of guys that they have can step up. They've got all these different guys. It's sort of like they're kind of diversifying their portfolio of these young guys, where one of them is bound to be at least okay. They're probably not all going to be great NBA players, but the more of those type of guys that you have, the more likely you are to run into somebody who develops into something nice. So
especially with
I
the
think
tax aprons right now, like having cheap.
yeah,
talent.
exactly. And we don't ever want to talk about this, but someday that bill's going to come due with these massive contracts that the Celtics are going to have, and the ownership thing is up in the air, so we don't know who's going to be paying that bill. Maybe they're willing to pay the tax and just do it. But if and when somebody's got to get moved, you've got some guys sort of waiting in the wings who maybe can fill in, or at least give you that hope where you're not completely terrified for the next 10 years as far as the outlook goes for the long term.
No, I think this team, they're so talented and they're so deep that, like, I mean, obviously not for the marquee games, but like for a good portion of the season, you could sit a starter a night and just call one of those guys up and just bump everybody up one position. And I don't think they'd really see like that much suffrage in the on-court product. Like, that's how good they are, that the system that they play with, the way Missoula has everybody ready, kind of next man up mentality. Like, we're very, very fortunate with the Celtics team, with what we have. So just don't take it for granted, because like I said, you never know how fast things can come to an end.
And they all can shoot, right, too? I mean, with the exception of like Cornette and Keita and guys like that.
They all defend and they can all shoot. And Cornette actually is a pretty good free throw shooter. Like, he has like an ability right there. He actually used to be more of a shooter with the Knicks when he was younger in his career. So maybe we'll see some of that with Porzingis out. Let's create another Porzingis.
If he turns into a Porzingis type player, I'll eat my shoe like that. I don't think that's going to happen. I mean, but I don't know. Who knows? But I don't think so. Anyway, the other thing I wanted to hit on, this was just a weird thing. The Celtics recently put out this cryptic, mysterious post on their social media pages. It was this picture of Jason Tatum kind of like in the shadows, like looking behind him at the camera over his left shoulder. And it just had a date on it. It said November 14th of 2024. And, my instant reaction was like, okay, do they have a game that night? You look, and they are not playing that night. They play the Nets the night before in Brooklyn. And then they're home against the Raptors on the 16th. So there are 2 days off in between there. What is going on? What is this November 14th date? What are we talking about here?
Just reading into it. Well, not reading into it all, actually, just making a complete guess. Just looking at the picture that they use, the graphic, it almost looks like when they're going to display their new alternate jerseys, like the city edition jerseys. That's my thought.
The only thing I can come up with.
Because nothing else makes sense.
That is the only thing I can come up with.
There's nobody you're like waiting to if it was just like a Celtics thing that says 11-14, you're like, okay, well, are they going to retire somebody's jersey? Is somebody going to retire? Like, that's the only thing I can think of that makes sense. Maybe we're both way off here, but we both have the same thought on it.
Yeah, no, and it's the only thing that makes sense, because it can't be. There's no way it's a sponsorship thing for Tatum individually, because that would have been posted by him or whatever brand is involved. If it's not
ownership thing.
Well, no, I don't think so. I don't think the team would post about that. Do you?
No.
So I mean, if it's not the uniform thing, I'm completely baffled. Like, I have no clue what we're talking about.
Maybe that's when Deuce becomes eligible to sign to a lifetime contract.
That would be nice. Lock him up long term. Give him a nice, 40-year deal.
Like the commitments they give to kids in middle school for like D1 programs.
That would be pretty funny. I guess the last thing we should hit on, we didn't get to talk last week, and I didn't even put this on the schedule for you, but I know you were paying attention. So did you have any thoughts from media day for the Celtics last week? I know that a lot of the other teams had their media days this week on Monday, but the Celtics obviously were doing it ahead of time with the travel coming up. So did you have any thoughts on everything that came out?
They just look locked in. Like, this doesn't seem like doesn't seem like an NBA champion, but a lot of times with the championship teams, you kind of got the feeling of almost like relaxation. It's just like, yeah, we did this. Like, we're back. Like, it's almost like, first day of school, back from summer vacation. Like, yeah, another season, but we accomplished it. Like, they all look like locked in. They look ready to look, it's like last season was last season. It's time to turn the page onto, this next chapter. We're going to try to go win it again. Like, starting from Brad and Joe, and then even down to Tatum and Brown, like every player looks locked in. Like, it was really exciting to see. It just kind of like gets the adrenaline flowing. Seeing them all back in the gear, and then seeing the slam cover with D White and Drew. So, And especially since they had it before everybody else. Like I know Denver had one because Celtics and Denver are playing in Dubai, so they had to have theirs earlier. But it was just kind of all about the Celtics. Like they were the last team playing, the team holding up the trophy, and they're the first team having media day. So gets you all fired up for the new season, new slate. But yeah, they look very locked in. Like this isn't like a one-off. Like I feel like they're going back to back, and that's what the mindset is.
I mean, that's what you hope for, because there's two ways, like you said, there's two ways it can go. I mean, I feel like everybody comes in a little bit more relaxed after having won the championship, but I guess there's two different kinds of relaxed. Like there's the kind where, they're a little bit full of themselves. They feel like, all right, we don't necessarily even have to try. We're just that much better than everybody else. I don't think that's it. I think it's the other side where they're like, all right, we got that monkey off our back now. They can't say anything about us that is going to offend us because we've already done it.
They'll still try in the media, but
oh yeah. And I mean, what was that? What was it that Perk said recently?
He said that nobody's scared of the Celtics.
Oh yeah.
They have a whole year. I mean, they have years of this, but like particularly last year, the whole year they're just this propaganda and this garbage nonsense that they're spewing, and all that got thrown in their face. So you could learn from it and go forward in a different direction. They're like, oh no, just rinse and repeat, because the anti-Celtic narrative, it brings views, it brings reactions, it brings interaction. So they would rather look like idiots but have views and interactions than just give the Celtics their praise. And the one guy that did was Zach Lowe. So obviously they couldn't have any of that in ESPN, so they had to let him go.
They had to fire him, right? Because he actually watched the games. The Perk thing was hysterical to me, because even if you just listen to the quote, he says, I don't think anybody's scared of the Celtics. That's why Philly went out and got Paul George and the Knicks went out and got Bridges. And this is even before the Cat deal. And I'm like, do you realize the irony of what you just said? Like, you just said that those teams felt that they had to go upgrade their rosters because they weren't good enough. How is that justification for saying that they're not scared of the Celtics? That doesn't make any sense at all. Like, I don't even know if he thought that through as he was saying it. And maybe he meant it a different way.
I don't think he thinks anything through, as he says. He's a blowhard. But he spent years trying to break up the Jays. And then he's like, oh, you got to complete the mission. Then he gave them crap, even though when they're blowing through the playoffs, because they didn't face any real competition. He picked Dallas to win the series. Then, he wasn't invited on the parade. Now he's back to the same thing. It's like, oh, no one's scared of the Celtics. It's just like, I don't know what the Celtics did to this guy, unless he's still bitter about them trading him, back in 2010. But, 2011. But yeah, it just makes, and he's the big media personality, Kendrick Perkins. Like it's crazy.
I mean, he's entertaining, like, and he's doing his job because he's got guys like you and me all riled up about it too. And here we are talking about it. So I guess we're giving them what they want. But I just don't really give too much thought to the things that guys like that say. Like, I don't pay too much attention.
It's entertainment.
To, like, yeah, there's clips that'll go around from Shannon Sharp, Skip Bayless, Perk, Stephen A. Smith, whoever. Like, they're fun to talk about. They're entertaining, but they're not serious, Yeah. So, I mean, unless there's anything else that you felt like we should talk about, I mean, I feel like we hit on everything that we put on our schedule. So did you have any other thoughts?
No, soon enough we'll have games to talk about. But yeah, I mean, for the summer, barring, last minute trade, happy belated anniversary to the Drew Holiday trade from a year ago that helped us win the championship. Miss you, Rob. But yeah, I mean, like I said, I even posted it like that was the day we won the championship last year. And it, turned out to be the case. So, very happy to have Drew. Like I said, going forward, we're going to have games to talk about, preseason and then actual games. So we got through the long, not so long stretch of the offseason, and now we're almost at, the games and, more entertaining things, like actual things to talk about.
Yeah. And we, day by day, we get closer to the actual regular season, but we have basketball to watch this Friday. The Celtics Nuggets game in Abu Dhabi is on Friday at noon because of the time change. And then they play again the next morning, and it'll be at 10 a.m. for us here in the States. So a little bit of breakfast basketball to get your weekend started.
Isn't it the 6th, or am I incorrect on that?
Let me look. I thought maybe you're right.
It was Sunday morning.
Let me check. I'm obviously, I thought I had it right, but you might be. Oh, yeah. So Sunday, sorry. Anyway.
Okay.
But either way, Sunday morning basketball before the NFL games, that's maybe even better. But anyway, we'll be ramping up to a podcast every week once the real season gets going. And we'll have obviously so much more to talk about when that comes around. But for now, I guess we will go ahead and get out of here. So for Alex and myself, as always, we will catch you next time.
Ends tonight here. It's over. Time to say it again, Boston. Anything's possible. Banner number 18 has been secured. The Celtics are NBA champions. Ends tonight here. It's over. Time to say it again, Boston. Anything's possible. Banner number 18 has been secured. The Celtics are NBA champions.